First of all, Arthur, I'm very grateful to you for your participation in my series, People of Art as Objects of Art.
Sure, thank you.
And I myself also a philosopher. I have a PhD in philosophy, and I studied your books in depth. And I specialize in aesthetics and theory of art.
Yeah.
And also I have some other perspective because I'm an artist. So I look at art from inside of art,
Yeah.
and from outside of art.
Yeah.
And this gives me a kind of zero level or virtual kind of ghost position.
A ghost position.
Ghost position.
I see.
So when I'm among artists,
Yeah.
I cannot just take the assertion.
Yes.
You know, when they assert,
Yes.
like let's say when Charles Saatchi says that in 1 century or in 2 centuries, people will open the history art book.
Yeah.
They will see only the names of Jackson Pollock, Damien Hirst, and some others. As a philosopher of art, I question it in a kind of Socratic way. So I can just take it by belief. And on the other side, when I'm among philosophers who work in the field of aesthetics, I listen to them, to every kind of theory. And then I wrote extensively myself. My first work was on the thesis of on the manifestos of Cubism when I was only, I don't know, 18 or 19 years old. Then I studied Mikhail Bakhtin. So I'm very well aware of the last words in art, which were the last words in 1910 and last word in 1930. So I'm very well aware of the history of art. And when I'm in the crowd of philosophers, I cannot just take their assertions just as a convention, as an agreement of some crowd. So in other words, because of my position between art and philosophy, I cannot enter art crowd, and I can't enter a crowd of philosophers just by convention.
Okay.
And this is why I wanted to ask you a question as your sister philosopher, who basically shares with you the same crowd of philosophers, and at the same time as an artist, whom you as an art critic analyze. And my first question is, this project that Vitaly Komar.
There's what, I'm sorry?
Vitaly Komar. Vitaly Komar and
Komar. Oh,
Komar.
Yeah, Komar.
Vitaly Komar
Alex.
and Alexander Melamed.
Yeah.
And by the way, I did a project with Alexander Melamed over the summer.
Yeah.
Which actually very close to the thing that I would like to talk about. So they did this hilarious project with elephants.
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 Yes, I know that elephant. I knew that project. They were together at that time.
Yes. And by the way, Alexander Melamed is still doing it.
He's doing it?
Yeah. So the elephants in Thailand, maybe Thailand.
They taught elephants to paint. I mean, they went out to Ceylon or someplace in Asia, and they thought that because there were bulldozers now, elephants are less necessary to lift things, and so they have to have something to do, and so Alex thought maybe it was Vitaly, but who's a very funny man. But Vitaly probably thought, since they can't do lifting anymore, maybe they could paint. and so we'll teach the elephants to paint, and that way they have a livelihood, and they won't, as it were, cut them up into elephant shops. And the idea was, and I remember Alex saying, you know, we got 15 elephants painting. I said, that's a movement. And it was very funny what they did, and there's even a video of them with the elephants. But that was the end of it. I think after that, Alex became God, so he couldn't be bothered by questions like that.
I think he's still continuing it.
It continued to be
so my question is, what do you think? Can we accept elephants into art crowd?
Do I think that? No. No, I think probably that those are, well, it's an interesting question in the sense that well, there are a lot of other things one has to decide, but the elephant one doesn't know what an elephant's thoughts are, what the elephant is exactly thinking, and I think that if the artwork, if it doesn't have thought, it's not really art. There's a passage in Hegel which I like a lot. When Hegel says, right at the beginning of his book, his lectures on aesthetics, he says that I'm not interested in nature. I'm only interested in art when I talk about beauty, or well, mostly beauty was the issue. And he says it comes because artistic beauty is born of the spirit. Der Geist geboren und wiedergeboren. It comes from the spirit, and it's born from the spirit and reborn, and that notion is very beautiful to me, and I don't know how to think about how an elephant thinks, and that seems to me to I doubt very much they even have a concept of art, but they can move their trunks around and lift things, and maybe even do it with grace, and maybe they could do a dance of the elephant trunks, and that would be really quite charming. But for the most part, you wouldn't know that it has the kinds of thoughts that an artist needs to do something. And you've got to try to... Wiedergeboren would mean the meaning gets reborn in the viewer who thinks what the artist thinks, or tries to. So that's the way I would feel. You could teach an elephant how to paint, but you can't teach him aesthetics. You can't teach him philosophy.
Thank you. But I have then another question. But let's say something happens with this huge box of paintings that are coming from Asia with its elephant paintings. And it got stolen, and somebody stole it and opened the box and saw these beautiful paintings. And they don't know that they're done by elephants, and they look exactly as the paintings of abstract expressionism. And then they bring these paintings to the gallery, and something happens. So we are philosophers.
Well,
we look at hypothetical situations.
Yeah.
So he brings to the gallery, and it happens that the paintings look exactly as the paintings of some famous abstract expressionists.
Well, I think probably you would say it looks like it was painted by Franz Klein, but it was an elephant. I mean, it's surprising that it looks the same, but if you paint the way Franz Klein did, it's possible for that to happen. It's unlikely that that what the elephants do look like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. They say, oh my God, it looks exactly like Michelangelo. You say, no, that's not possible.
I have another question, and my other question is about other famous, important trend in art, pop art.
Yeah.
Precisely about the Brillo Box. It looks like the Brillo Box acquired its place in art via art crowd, via the discourse. So this discourse within the art crowd gave this Brillo Box the status of a piece of art.
Yeah.
So my question is, can we, again as philosophers, hypothetically propose festivals in New York, in Berlin, London, let's say one day, the entire city opens their doors to galleries, and every piece in this house, in every house, is a piece of art. Can we deny every citizen within some specific city a right to, to proclaim during the art crowd? Can we join them in, can
it's an interesting question, and I'm not sure I know how to answer it, but take a real example. I mean, Duchamp in 1915 bought a snow shovel on Columbus Avenue, and he called it a ready-made. He gave it a title. It says "In Advance of the Broken Arm," and so forth. Well, what's to prevent somebody else in another country to do that? And I think the first thing people would say is that he must have known about Duchamp. The idea of the ready-made had never been enunciated by anybody except Duchamp, and he had a definite reason for picking the snow shovel. If you ask him what's interesting about it, Duchamp would say its lack of beauty. The main thing about there are only 20 odd ready-mades, but each one of them Duchamp was interested in because of the absence of beauty, because he kind of had it in for beauty and so forth. So that it would be very unlikely that somebody without a history, a sense of the history of art, would have an answer like that or a reason like that, that it's not beautiful. Most people want the things to be beautiful. So it's difficult. What you can invest the individual who, I don't know, is a tailor and has a snow shovel and lives in Königsberg like Kant. No, I don't think that's likely to happen. But if it did, then it did. You just don't know in advance how you're going to answer these questions. But the subject is an interesting subject.
Then I have another question. So it looks, from your answer, it looks that art should be unique. So you said that we can deny everybody joining in.
Yeah.
Because the idea should be novel, should be a new idea, original idea, unique idea. But then it looks like all the battalions and armies of abstract expressionists who basically just exploited the idea of the first who came up with this kind of throwing paint at the canvas, or the legions and armies of pop artists who continue, exploiting the same idea. Then this means basically the end. It's all ended.
Yeah.
It's Finita.
It ended, that's right. It ended around 1962, and that was the end, and really the end. Yeah, I had a lot of friends who were third generation abstract expressionists, and they were in bad trouble because when they were showing third generation expressionism, everybody was interested in pop art, which was not like that at all. So it's it is what happened. Sorry. My view is that what made abstract expressionism, that is to say that kind of free, is psychoanalysis mostly. You know, Pollock was a depressed man. He saw a Jungian analyst to try and take away the depression, and somebody said, "Let yourself go." I have no idea if that's how it happened, but the fact that psychoanalysis was something that became almost commonplace in the United States, whereas it didn't in France, or it didn't in Portugal, or it didn't in Morocco. I think that made a difference. The first thing was abstraction. That was the big breakthrough. What made it? How can you do a painting and have it abstract? Not really. You've got to draw a distinction between a painting and a picture. You say, here's a painting, but it's not a picture, or it represents, but it doesn't represent pictorially. You're going to have to work that out. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it seems to me that that New York, this is where it was the New York School, and the idea of letting yourself go, a free association, those concepts. It seems to me everybody was ripe for that. You look at somebody like de Kooning, on the other hand. De Kooning kept to the figure in a certain kind of way. He did these, in 1953, he did these women, big, buxom, toothy women, and they looked savage and so forth and so on. And people were really angry with de Kooning because they were figures. You could see what they were, that they were women, and that they were almost monsters, you might say. But the fact is that you could respond to them the way you would respond to a picture of a monster. And everybody said you should be abstract, you shouldn't be like that, and so forth. But de Kooning went the way he went.
And then I have the last question. The last question.
Okay.
So it seems that abstract expressionism is over. It seems that pop art is over as well, because the idea is not original anymore. Mm. And then we have a movement, young British art.
Who?
Young British art.
Young British artists.
Yes.
Yes.
Which kind of the development, kind of branch of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it pop art, but it's. Some of the prominent idea of this.
Well, they had very interesting ideas, mm-hmm. but they were all different, unlike the abstract expressionists, where you can see that they're doing the same thing. Like the artist, the sculptor who did a self-portrait in his blood, which mm-hmm. had to be frozen and then modeled and then kept in a refrigerator, kind of in a glass thing, and so forth. And then Damien with the stuffed shark. I mean, that's a very different piece. And everything was there was a picture of a woman who had murdered some children, and they put the portrait and then the handprint of the child all over so there was an element of shock that they were interested in, which doesn't seem to me at all what the abstract expressionists were interested in. They weren't interested in shock at all. These were people like Barney Newman, and Klein. They were not interested in shocking people at all. So I'm not exactly sure, but I think that the young British YBA, as they say, I mean, I thought it was an interesting movement. It was a movement. It was sort of the last movement that was over with. When that was over with, movements were over with for the most part, and except for people who had the kind of imagination that Damien had, then they're not. The rest of them didn't, as it were, last quite the same way. I mean, people buy those things and they have a value, and but you know, it's a different culture.
And it's actually interesting that Damien Hirst is preoccupied with death. So
yes, he says he is.
Corpses and maggots eating corpses.
Yeah.
It's like it looks like the end of this, the whole era, epoch of the development of art. But art was developing by movements. Expressionism, pop art, and this last movement is ended.
Yeah.
So my question is, what do you think, as a philosopher who spent his entire life and created such a substantial theory of art, what do you think of the art tomorrow?
What do I think of what?
Of the next step in the development of art
is?
What do you think it will be?
Oh, I think it's finished.
The art is over.
Yeah, it's not going to be interesting from this point.
Elephants. So
yeah,
maybe you should invite elephants.
Why not giraffes? I mean, it's no. I wrote a book on the end of art, and I do believe rather deeply in that. So, I mean, nothing interesting has been happening for the last 20 years, I think. So I thought at the time, I thought with Andy, that was the end. And I thought the Brillo Box was the end, because when you can't distinguish between reality and art empirically, or if you say art and reality are the same, that's the end of art. And I think that, you know, that was a brilliant move that he did, but he did put an end to it, and that's quite an achievement. Well, you know, if there were anything really interesting happening, I would know a little bit about it, but I've lately not been able to go to the galleries because of my back, but I read the magazines, and I don't see that much that would make me go to the gallery and write about it.
But Arthur, will you join me? I will write a petition for closing all the galleries because the art is...
Oh, no, I don't think I would take away the living. That's a philosophical speculation. It doesn't take away the living. The artist has maybe a child, and the child has to be fed. No.
So it's all alive.
It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's just that I don't expect anything to happen. So.
And Arthur, I would like to give you as a gift the print of our work that you have done in collaboration.
That's really lovely. Thank you, Irene.
Grab the thing.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Arthur.
Oh, thank you, dear.
I should write down, it's all over, we live in a life.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, and I'm glad it's not the, what did you call them?
I called it Arthur Danto contributes to Damien Hirst spot paintings.
Okay, that's good. Wonderful. I mean, it's a beautiful photograph, by the way.
Thank you.
It really is quite beautiful, and I didn't expect it to be like that. So, I mean, you really did a wonderful thing. And all those foolish little, they're eggs, plastic eggs.
I learned from elephants.
Yeah.
I was thinking about elephants.
In elephants?
Yes.
Oh, there you go. I won't press you and find out why.